soon.
12:11.
Mary Ann is, yep.
We do have quorum.
We do, and it's 1:30. We can kick this off. This is our final budget work session. Anything?
Yeah.
Anything from the board? Any other additional questions or adjustments since the last time we met?
I did not have any.
I'm okay.
Any updates from you
I do.
and finance?
The downtown drainage project, we have now received information on the costs associated with the soil testing.
Yeah, okay.
So we originally had put in here in the outlay 250,000. We would like the board to consider in the budget committee as well. We really need about 500,000 for that soil testing.
Wow.
Of course, if we don't use it, the money goes back to the taxpayers. But we need to make sure that we have that money available for this project. So I do ask the board to consider increasing that from 250 to 500,000.
Question. This is for soils that have been excavated from the ground, correct?
Not everything is out yet, as I understand it. We have not done all of ours. So we still need to remove some soil, then you have to go through the testing, the engineer. Are you Jonathan?
I am.
There you go.
Well, I'm going to ask a question about let's say it finds that there's a problem with the soil.
Right.
What then? Is there additional funds that would be required to
No.
treat it?
No, we have gone through with the engineer and everyone that they work with to mitigate the potential hazard that we're facing. Sorry, I didn't know if there was somebody else behind me.
I thought the door remained locked, but I guess.
They're
not.
in there working on
Okay.
stuff.
Oh, that's the supervisors.
Yes, it usually is, except the supervisors are in there.
Yep. So I don't know what else to do. I don't think that there is another place within the budget that we can reduce by 250,000 to get that number up to 5. Again, if we don't spend it, it will go back. It isn't going to be moved for something else. It'll be for that purpose only. It'll have its own warrant article.
So why do we need the additional 250?
Because the actual the 250 was just a quick estimate that we threw in there. We
Yep.
now have the actual cost for upwards of 500,000.
So then it looks like we'll actually spend the 500,000.
That's what
There
the
won't be money.
the estimated cost, yes, will be around 500,000.
So we won't actually be giving back to the taxpayers, from the looks of it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what she said.
Correct. You started by saying that if we don't use it, we would give it back to the taxpayers. And
Right.
So Mary Ann
So
was just
anything we don't use.
Anything that we don't use. I'm
because we
sorry.
don't know exactly how much it'll be.
Correct.
Right, but you're saying probably more than, we'll say 500,000. It certainly doesn't sound like we're giving anything back. The potential doesn't sound like it's there.
Not at this time, not unless they come up with some different reasons or different ways to mitigate the soil. This is the best scenario that they have come up with to take care of the hazards that are in the soils.
So these are the soils in front of the dry cleaners, that block right there.
That area, there is additional, it's the entire project that
I
they've
know
found
that. I
soils
know
in,
that,
but
but they're-
most of it is in front of the dry cleaner.
Okay. And so has the engineer, and I'm sorry for these questions,
No, that's all right, I'll try to answer if I can.
has the engineer taken soil samples and identified chemicals that are in the ground?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Okay, all right. So this is basically remediation. This is
Correct.
removing the soils and treating the soil.
yes.
And storing and monitoring.
Storing, monitoring, we may, best case scenario, from what I heard the other day, is that once the soil is treated,
Right.
we may be able to use that soil elsewhere. So it might be a win sort of a win, if you can say it, on that side, where we may be able to use it on other projects. Right now, we don't know what's, I only have the prices.
Right.
And those chemicals came from the businesses that are there, probably primarily the cleaning business?
They're the
Could be.
easier to identify.
Right, right,
Dry cleaning chemicals are easy to identify because they've been a problem all over the country.
okay.
Some of the others would be,
Yeah, as Neil is often, will regularly remind us, we've had a lot of gas stations on South
Yeah.
Main Street.
One in,
I think he laid out 15 or so over just his memory.
right,
Or 20.
Is there anything with the existing businesses that they're contributing to it at this point, or have been, that they have to do differently inside the building and piping and things of that nature, or?
well, I think just from knowing, they're not doing any of the cleaning on site anymore. It's drop
Yeah.
off and delivery.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
I don't
Yeah.
think any of those processes are going on now.
Gotcha, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think they sent them down to Laconia or
Yeah,
someplace,
right.
yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
so that is the only change that I'm aware of. Everyone pretty much, I'm looking at the 12.5 town manager's budget worksheet, and I will update everybody else's. The selectmen's will be the final update that you'll see if you're looking online. Zach,
So if I'm looking online,
look at the
current-
town managers,
And that,
please.
so that green box, that's the town manager's box.
Oh, you're looking at the last page.
I'm just looking at the bottom line.
Yep.
That does or does not include this change.
It does not include the additional 250.
Why is the town manager one higher than the budget committee one?
The town manager one is 724, 842 right now.
720.
Agreed? Don't look at the budget committee tab, do not look at the
Oh, no, I'm looking at
selectmen's
the,
tab.
oh, which tab should I be looking at?
I want you to look at the town manager tab, if you would,
Oh.
please. Sorry,
Yep, that's fine. I thought they were all
no,
synced.
they're not all the same yet.
Okay, 724, 842.
So what we would do is we would add an additional 250,000, which would bring that savings down to 420, 474, 842.
740.
Proposal from the selectmen if you agree to move forward with what we're proposing.
What's the current, what's the current assessment? I'm just trying to think through how much that affects the
I
tax
knew
rate.
you were gonna ask me that. I'm thinking
790?
798 or something like that. About, if you use 800,000, you're in good shape.
Okay, so 800's close, so that's a little over 50-cent reduction.
Correct.
I liked it better when it was close to $1, but I'll take 50 cents.
So unless you want to go through this budget line item by line item again, or if you want, if there's any specific department, this is what we will prepare for the budget public hearing, which is on the 22nd, 5:15.
Correct.
And what you will see,
You hear that?
you will not see the department head's recommendations. You will not see the town manager's recommendations, nor will you see the budget committee recommendations. So column E, F, G, and H will not be there. You will see the Board of Selectmen because that is the final budget that you're preparing.
Yep.
Okay?
What do we think?
I've got nothing else, so I would say go with it.
It feels like we've been rounds and rounds and rounds of reducing this to this point that I don't see any reason to push further. Mary Ann, any thoughts on your end?
No, of course, no one wants to go round and round. The additional money, though, is just, I know it's not a lot. I don't know. I guess there's not much we can do about it. It has to be done.
No.
Just
It's a
tough to
project that,
swallow.
It's a project that we have started, and in order for us to continue to get our offset from EDA, we have to continue to have the money available as our
Right.
portion.
We gotta finish.
We got to finish the project. It's been.
Right, no, there's certainly no question about that.
Yeah. I wish there was some way to get offsetting funds for, a natural disaster we didn't cause. That chemical
Yeah, I
spill.
don't even know when that spill
Right.
was, so I
Could have
don't.
been any time in the last 100 years.
And we don't feel it's worth to go, line by line or somehow break it up.
I know that June Hammond Rowan has been tasked with trying to see if there is any funding, any place that can help us. But that,
Okay.
we still need to budget for
Need
it.
to budget for
Make
it.
sure that we have it.
That would be offsetting revenue if we could get it.
Absolutely. Yep, unanticipated funds.
Is that a thing you want to do, Marianne? You wanna open this back up and go through?
I certainly wasn't expecting it. I don't know why. It certainly sounds painful, and I'm not sure it's worth it. I know we've kind of looked at outlier kind of big chunks. And I guess not. I just hate saying it.
No, I'm with you. I think that based on the previous conversation we had, short of cutting staff, we're pretty tight here.
Yeah, the only other area is the capital improvements program, and we're gonna end up in the same ditch we got ourselves into by pushing all these costs off down the road.
Right, I mean, we could decide, we have two roads that we're gonna do.
Yeah.
We could decide not to do those two roads, but
But it doesn't help us.
it doesn't help us in the long term by
No.
any means. It just puts us another
Yeah,
two roads behind.
yeah, and it only aggravates the folks that live on those roads who are paying taxes, that said, hey, we waited.
I think if we weren't looking at a budget that proposes a reduction, right? Because we're still looking at, I don't know exactly. Hold on, I'll do the math. Math, 1 second. I'm gonna use 800 just as a,
Easy.
so it's 59 cents. We're effectively, we've got a budget here that's gonna reduce the town's portion by 59 cents. To me, that feels like we've done a really solid job this year.
Considering that some of the costs have increased.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is in the face of lots of increased costs.
Well, at some point, we take a stand.
And,
This is the time.
yeah, and there'll be growth in the bottom line. So that 59 cents may be that may be 69 cents
Right.
based on growth of the bottom line by
Yeah,
improvements and additions and things.
yeah.
True.
That's
Yeah, I
where
guess
I'm
I'm
at.
just putting my taxpayer hat on, of course, and, how did we go from from 250 to 500? I realized kind of 250 was best guess, but to be off 100%, once again, putting my taxpayer hat on and putting my people coming to us and going, hey, our taxes have already jumped ginormously, and now you're telling me your estimates were way off. I guess
Mary
we
Ann,
have a
the-
couple-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the number that we put in of 250 was really a significant placeholder. That's all it
Right.
was. We kept pushing and pushing and pushing. We did not know that this soil testing and the soil was an issue when we put together this entire plan. As far as the downtown drainage project. It was just a placeholder. We kept pushing our engineers. We just finally got these numbers. Friday is when I got them. So it was perfect timing to bring it to the board. But the 250 we had put in there just as a placeholder. If we had already gone to town meeting and already voted on the budget, the board would have to find $250,000 in the budget to finish this project. So timing is everything sometimes.
Sure.
We just, this year, as you know, Neil had brought forward the concerns about the soils. We didn't realize that there was any concerns. It was never brought out before. We have to finish this project, and that's where we are at this time. I don't,
If we didn't have that placeholder, we'd be looking at 500.
you would be looking at
Right.
500,000.
No, I'm honestly not questioning anything. What I'm trying to do is come up with talking points. Once again, with my taxpayer hat on, why the hell did we not know about the potential of soil testing? Thank God Neil's around. Those type of things.
Well, if I can interject, I mean, we did not know about this situation. We put money in place because we didn't know what it was. It could have been 100,000, it could have been 1 million, I mean, we didn't know. So it was just to get that place and at least have some money put there in the event that. So if people are questioning why, it's because we had no idea because the work hadn't been done.
Right. The other thing is that this soil testing now is going to change every municipality's, every state road work. The state has never dealt with this before.
Interesting.
And we're hearing from them now saying there's significant changes in all of our testing. If the state was doing the work, potentially they could say, we're exempt, because we're the state. They're not doing the work, the town of Plymouth is, and
Right,
EDA. So
right.
across this state, every contractor is going to be dealing with this now. And if it's state work, then they're probably not going to have to deal with it. If the state themselves is doing the work, they're not.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So that's how it would have been missed, because it was never required.
No, it was never projected as needing to be worked on. It was never identified that there was an issue,
So why were the soil samples tested?
Right,
because it was brought to our attention that we need to really consider the soils in the area due to the number of gas stations and every other business that was on Main Street. Once that was brought to our attention, we went forward and did the testing. And that's when it was identified.
Yeah, we were legitimately concerned that we were going to take soils out of the road there, and that those soils were going to then get transported somewhere else, reused, and then there was going to be a problem
Other places.
somewhere else. Yeah, and maybe they would have taken those soils and they would have gone somewhere else, and it would have been someone else's problem. But it also could have gone somewhere else. They tested it, and once that soil was used, and then now we've created a problem somewhere else, and the town's facing a lawsuit. So we were very concerned as a board that we do the proper testing, because we had this feeling that there might be something wrong there. Turned out there was something wrong there.
Zach, I think it was the right thing to do.
I think it was too. I mean, it stinks that now we're here and we've created a $500,000 problem for ourselves, or discovered a $500,000 problem. But I mean, that $500,000 problem could have been a $5 million lawsuit,
Right.
or not. I don't know. I don't know as I like gambling with the environment quite that much.
Not me.
I also think too, a lot of the question is gonna be, why didn't the engineers know to do that when these questions came up?
Yeah. Why wasn't it in the original project? Yeah.
Exactly, I think the engineers, kind of can hold some of that responsibility.
As a rule of thumb, mitigation is $1 million an acre.
The other, looking back at this project, the amount that we have, the project was originally an 80-20 grant, with the town paying 20%. Now it is closer to a 50/50 grant, because the cost for the not for the engineering specifically, the cost for the contractor doing the work. The overall contract, we were looking at, what, 4 million to start with, 3.5 million? It's now almost a $6 million project. EDA is only gonna pay 2.7, period.
Right. I mean, it's good that we have that 2.7 from EDA. but
Correct, but it's going,
It's not as big a percentage as it was when we started.
it is not. So
Are those costs reflected in this budget, the increase, the extra 2 million?
1.8 million was already approved at the prior
year.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Yep,
And I see that we're paying it down this year with the excess.
right.
Was that the plan?
What do you mean with the excess?
So at the end of the day, you had a $2.5 million excess from last year to this year, the savings. So you guys are paying that down? The 1.8, was it planned to do that
Yes.
in 1 year?
Right, that's where all that money went right to that project
Okay.
in that 1 year, that's correct.
And we're paying that bond back?
We are, it's a
This-
10-year.
It's
It's a
10
10-year
years.
bond.
So we have 9 more
and a
years on it.
portion. If you look under debt service,
Well, I was just looking at the last page where you have 1.8 million removed bond actual decrease.
oh, that is the actual, that's to show budget comparisons.
Oh,
That's not a payment.
Otherwise, you accidentally, it looks like we raised, because we did raise at 1.8 million last year. So it would look, if you were not raising 1.8 million this year, so it would look like we had this
Right.
huge reduction in taxes, which wouldn't be a fair representation of what actually happened.
So unless there's anything else,
I did want to give, appreciate that you showed up and you have questions. Do you have any other questions? I would
I'm
love
gonna
just
have
to.
a lot of questions after I go through all this, I'm sure. I see that you guys are rearranging things within the budget, because I know at last meeting we broke out Penny Baker to be its own standalone, so that's why you
We
guys are
did.
breaking it from select board to its own area, is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's what all those blue highlighted are moving there, but then we're also moving the FICA and Medicaid executive down to its own section.
Yeah, for all
So
departments,
you're moving all departments to its own.
not FICA and Medicaid.
Not
It's
FICA
the,
and
it's,
Medicaid.
it's
What
health
you're
insurance.
what you're
Oh.
seeing in the two blue on the
Yeah.
first page, the first one is the executive budget where PBTV used to be.
Oh, okay, so that's part of the.
We
okay.
have moved PBTV down to its
I
own
see.
section.
But
The
all
oth-
the executive insurance, and dental, I think you guys split up to be its own.
We did,
Yes.
correct, that's gonna be on,
Blue Cross Blue Shield and all of that.
Under personnel administration.
correct.
What was the reasoning for that?
It is to prevent, it's a HIPAA not really a violation, but it's a HIPAA to protect the employee from you knowing how many people my company is paying for me.
Well, so if we,
It's a protection for the
if you
employee.
imagine we have a department with one employee in it,
Then you know, okay.
then you know exactly what that employee has for
Plan.
a plan.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't know what they have for a plan, you know how much the premium is being paid.
But you can back solve what you know how much they're paying for a premium, and then so you can figure out what their plan is.
But I wouldn't know how much is being paid by the employee, so at that.
All you would have to have is your pay stub. If you were an employee of the town, you could look at your pay stub, and you would know how much the town was paying,
For the other
and you could
person.
figure out, So it was like, we're in this situation where that information is, if you could do a little bit of algebra, you
Right.
could figure that out, and it wasn't.
Nobody does algebra these days.
I Google everything.
So the ambulance and the fire, do you want to go through that real quick with him?
Yeah, so the other big changes,
Page 7.
Yeah, the ambulance.
You knew
I was
that.
gonna ask about that, because I did see the highlights of blue, and I was like, oh, that's really helpful. So that's just rolling in the new,
So the ambulance now, we are actually charging the ambulance for the amount of the budget where it should be, what it costs to run an ambulance in the town of Plymouth, okay?
yeah, so in the past, a lot of the costs for running So our, fire and ambulance, right? And a lot of the costs for that were under the fire department's budget. So it looked like we had a very expensive fire department
Right.
and a very inexpensive ambulance, which wasn't the reality.
Yeah.
And then if you realize that, okay, we're billing other towns based off the cost of our ambulance service,
There's a lot of overhead that was eaten by the fire that you couldn't.
exactly. And you couldn't really make that clear to someone. So we are, as a result, the costs,
So is all the ambulance, that whole section new?
it's not new. It's not new, but it's a big
A lot of the
movement.
lines are
The lines come.
Okay.
new.
I have nothing to compare it to. Oh, I do actually see that, because some of them are, they don't have a historical.
Correct. There's historical in maybe fire.
So
That was moved.
How, and this is just me just wondering, how is like building custodial supplies? They're cleaning the same building, is it just an allocation that they're gonna have this much cleaner goes to the ambulance, this much to the fire based on personnel's percentage?
78% of both budgets, okay, belongs to the ambulance now. The other 22% belongs to fire.
So anytime there's a shared
How
expense,
did that percentage come to fruition?
That was according to the department. That's what
They
they
determined
believe.
it.
Yep,
Okay.
they
and I
determined
think
it for
they
us.
use call volume.
It could have been,
I'm sure there, yeah, multiple factors.
Yeah,
So that's helpful while we're.
it's a good question, though.
mhm.
And these are all expense related,
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That is correct.
There's no income on this side?
There is not. We're a gross appropriation.
I know I try to
Bottom
stay
line
up
is-
on select board meeting minutes, but I'm really bad at it. Is, Mid-State paying a pilot for Little Antlers?
No.
But they're not tax exempt on that building.
I believe that they are.
Yeah,
They are
they
now?
apply for it, yeah.
Oh, did they apply for it?
They applied this
Initially, they
year
weren't
and they
going
are
to.
exempt. Yep.
So I think
No.
as a taxpayer, I would challenge the town to really look at pilot agreements with some of the nonprofits.
We,
Scott is actively having conversations with all.
I can tell you, I am a nonprofit in Hebron, and we pay $20,000 to the town of Hebron
just as a pilot.
as pilot.
Okay.
And it's a percentage of just the town's portion of the budget, and we think it's fair. We use EMS services. If a kid was choking at Little Antlers, who's gonna get a phone call? The ambulance department. The
Agreed.
people that are gonna get to Little Antlers, how are they gonna get there? On town roads. Some of them are state, yes, but I feel like that would be something that I think a lot of the people in town would appreciate seeing, not just a reduction on the expenses. And I think just quickly looking at this, you guys did a great job of holding the line and decreasing in an inflation rampant life, so great job. But I think really looking at pilot programs with some of those nonprofits.
So how did Thornton establish that?
It is not Thornton, it's Hebron.
Hebron.
How did Hebron establish that?
So they, a while back, and I was not there, we forgot to file the A9, A12. And so they threw the book at us and said, pay your taxes. And we said, well, we want to get our lawyers involved. And they were like, oh, let's just do a pilot and let's forget about it. But then they got all the camps involved. So I work at Berea Ministries. Camp Berea's on the backside. But there's 5 other camps in Hebron that they decided, there was a meeting between all the executives and the select board, and they came to the agreement to say, what do we think is fair? That benefits the town, and that benefits that's not a burden on the nonprofit. And so that's where they came to that conclusion. So my boss was a part of that conversation.
So all nonprofits in Hebron, or they were looking at the
Yeah.
camps?
Every nonprofit, Camp Mobley pays, Camp Pasquani pays, the girls' camp, I can't think of it right now.
Wickasuda.
Well, Waikasuta is a for-profit. They pay full taxes. They're the town's biggest taxpayer.
Berea.
Yep. This is the first year that every nonprofit, with the exception of, I think it was with the exception of the churches, that were actually reviewed.
Right.
Some changes were made after reviewing their information, but I know that Scott has been working very hard
Yeah.
to go in and touch base with the hospital, with Boulder Point properties, you know, the charter schools, the, you know.
Well, and I think Little Antlers is an easy one to look at to say that directly competes with a for-profit entity. There's people that can open a daycare anywhere. Nobody can open a hospital anywhere. And that services the town. There is a benefit to that. Yes, there's a benefit to a daycare, but there's also a benefit for other things within the town. So I mean, churches, you would have hard pressed to win a lawsuit against that, I think. Because I know there are camps that actually challenged their town and went to court and they won, and they're not paying a pilot, but we think we want to be, as a nonprofit, we want to be good neighbors, and I feel like they should want to do the same. Because if they're charging the same rate that a for-profit is, but they're not paying taxes, that's just going right back into their coffers, and that's not fair to the taxpayers.
Right.
I would agree with you.
And so I would look at it as they're a completely going against a for-profit. We should go more than 75%. But for the hospitals, there is a greater good that they provide.
That's true. And regarding churches, I'm actually on a committee at the State House, and I'm on Ways and Means. And tomorrow morning at 10:30, we have a hearing relating to the tax-exempt status of churches, providing that churches shall not be exempt from state taxes. Unfortunately, it would require a change in the Constitution, the state Constitution. So you need like a supermajority of the state to appreciate that would be a good thing to put in, which may be kind of unlikely.
Right. Yeah. I don't think they'll change the church, and the parsonage is an easy argument for a lawyer to make, to say, hey, both of these are not taxable entities. But I think we really need to, as a town, take a hard look at some of that, because that would help offset the burden of the taxes that we've seen across to take care of this town properly.
Can I say one more thing? So there was a bill that went in last year regarding doing a study committee on nonprofits and pilots. And that was introduced in the Senate, and the Senate just killed it right off the bat. But I'm going to resubmit it next year, and it might be a different legislature at that time. And I expect you to testify when we bring the bill to.
I would prefer not having a written agreement pilot, but more of an in-faith agreement, just like a handshake. But I know some people don't like that because it's a little scary. But I'm a man of my word, and we do that with our ministry. But I know that some people don't like just the handshake and be like in good faith. But we have a great relationship with the EMS, with Linda Fisher and all that in Hebron. So, but so I think the income side is something that I know you guys have shaved a lot on the expense side. So I think if we want to try to help the town out, that's where we have to look next.
You were thinking of Camp Onaway.
Camp Onaway, and then there's also one on Speculator, which I always forget the name of it. Circle Program.
Oh.
That's the one. Speculator Pond.
Regarding churches, if they embark on a commercial enterprise, that part can be taxed.
It's UBIT, unrelated business income tax. So they have to not only pay income tax, but a portion of the property tax. And I think that's really what Little Antlers is to Midstate. It is not part of their mission of we're providing health care. It's a social service. But that's my little soapbox.
I think we should send Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan, you want to
We have a
negotiate, because
There you go. We'll
Mid-State,
take it.
we've struggled to
Well,
get.
so you don't have to negotiate. You can send them a full tax bill. They have to defend it, and then it would go to court. That's how it would work.
Yeah, but I'm
We've
not
been
sure
there.
we'd win.
We've been there before.
You don't think you'd win against
We did not.
daycare?
Oh, daycare?
Maybe against
I
daycare.
think you could win against a daycare. I think that's completely going against a for-profit. Because are there any other for-profit entities of daycare in the town? I know PSU runs one. There used to be one.
Yeah, there's actually one almost directly across the street in that strip mall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so all those people are paying tax. So I don't know how they can say, hey, we're providing something different than that. They're not.
How'd they get the exemption to begin with?
They
It's
applied.
umbrella.
They applied, they have,
Yeah.
you know.
They filled out
all the-
89 and 812, and
They did.
the town gave it
Yep.
to them.
All their paperwork signifies, they must have something that our assessors believe that they should be non-taxable.
Right.
We've had a history of negotiating with Midstate, which resulted in litigation that was painful. And they're pretty hard-nosed. And I think if anybody can negotiate with them, Scott Whedon is the guy to lead that.
We tried to negotiate right up out of the gate. So when they purchased that building, we refused to sign off on that as a
Grant.
on the grant that they applied for because they said it was for the good of the community, and we said, actually, if you're going to be tax exempt, it won't be for the good of the community. If you agree to pay taxes, we'll sign off on your grant. And then they said, well, we can't guarantee we won't apply for nonprofit in the future. And we as a board at that time chose not to sign off on their grant.
Mary Ann could say her ice cream place is for the good of the community because people love ice cream. Mary Ann knows that because I'm in there all the time. Like, I mean, you can't just say it's for the good of the community and just that's it. Like,
Yeah.
there's got to be substantial for the good of the community. That benefits everybody, not just the people who pay to go in. So,
Agreed.
sorry, that's my little soapbox.
It's a good soapbox to be
Chief,
on.
chief negotiator to
On
work
there.
with Scott.
Any other
So
questions?
you guys said you had some roads kind of on the agenda to do. Is that in this?
It's in the capital section towards the
On
bottom,
page 6,
line
15,
92.
Page 16 or 15?
15, 15.
Line 692.
Okay.
Now, there'll be regular, maintenance work and keeping up with and some, sidewalk work that's in some of the other line items, but those are the two big roads that we're intending to.
And then I know that we were behind. The reason why we had to do one of the big loans within the last couple of years, bonds, is because we weren't putting stuff like we should have in reserve. Are we properly putting enough in reserve that we don't have to do bonds in the future but can go off of our reserve account?
So rather than have capital reserves, what we've done with the capital improvement committee is we've laid out 6 years of all the different capital projects we need to do, and we've balanced the expense of those over the 6 years. So rather than saving now and not making very good interest, that shows the planned replacements of all the equipment, all the capital stuff in town that's as it
The idea
matures.
is to keep this in perpetuity, so every year,
You add another.
Yes, every year you replace that 6th year.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state DRA has discouraged us from having capital reserve funding.
Well, putting money in savings right now was not last year
Productive.
worth it.
Yeah, with the interest rates having.
Right now, it's actually an okay
now
year to
it's-
do
yeah.
it.
Because interest rates are up. Once they go down, the market's on.
So, yeah, it's a disincentive to put the money in the bank because why are you taking taxpayer money and putting it in the bank to hold it? Why is
Yeah,
it-
to buy equipment so we wouldn't have to buy it on bond in the future. That would be the goal of that, right? It's similar to the idea of depreciation is you're expending the life of it with the idea that that money's being set aside, so when you have to buy it again, it's not a big replacement, it's just what is-
Planned.
Yeah, it's more planned, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So that is the proposed plan right now.
Okay.
That's the approved plan. Right now.
If you guys all
Well, the
approve.
capital improvement plan has been approved. That's not us, that's planning
We
board.
made a few changes already.
So
have
this
we?
past year it was 2.5 million. This year it'll be 1.9, and then next year you're gonna go back to 2.5.
Correct. Because what they're doing this year is they're getting authorization for several leases without making lease payments. Next year, they'll be having to make those lease
So we have to
payments.
make up for the lease payments.
Correct.
Because they already took the vehicle without
No,
approval?
nope. The board chose not to put those lease payments in this year.
These are for vehicles that were approved and purchased from last year's.
The year we're going into.
Yes, but it was like a fire, one of them's in a
Wasn't
fire truck.
available yet?
that-
Yes, but we have not had approval for these yet. There's
Any
only,
of them?
only one of them.
So, okay, one of them we have, and we've just deferred the first payment.
And the reason that we're doing that as well is because it takes anywhere from a year to 18 months to get these
get the-
pieces of
So
equipment.
you want, so we have to pay for the vehicle before we get the vehicle.
The bank pays for the vehicle before we get the vehicle. And then we start making payments once we receive it.
I got you.
So it's that,
So it's just delayed because of the receiving takes a full
Correct.
12 months to 18 months.
12 to 18 months, sometimes a little longer, depending on what you're building.
So it's, so we're not deferring, it's just the equipment's not arriving until next year. So there's a dip because we didn't receive any equipment we don't expect to receive equipment for the 20 to 25 billing cycle, is that correct?
For the
Yes.
new equipment, yes, that's correct. For the leases that we're heading into.
Because that almost seems like it's a false sense of security of, oh, you're only paying 1.9, but then we go right back to the 2.5 mark. So it's like this.
Yes, but hopefully we won't have $500,000 of
Yep.
soil
Drainage, yeah.
maintenance to deal with,
Right.
which is not in the capital improvement, because it's not a capital
Because it
project.
Wasn't capital.
Yeah, not capital,
Because it wasn't planned.
That is-
that too.
So you asked about the two roads. Did you have questions on those two?
No, I was just curious which ones.
Okay.
And I do know, the highway manager had mentioned that, like, people will complain about their road, but at the same time, and why aren't they doing it, but it's easier to take care of the ones that aren't as far gone than the ones that are more gone, correct?
Yes.
We're following the plan for the road surface management
Yeah, we had,
as recommended by
Lake Street Planning
Lake
Commission.
How
Street
far out the-
Planning Commission.
How far out is that plan? 4 or 5 years?
at least 5, yeah.
It's comprehensive.
It is comprehensive, so it's all the roads.
Yeah, it's got a plan
And
for
the
all of
current
it.
condition at the time that plan was put together.
Yep, and recommendations on which ones we should keep as high grade by just doing maintenance, and which ones we should maybe let recede even further, because they already need a full rebuild, and so.
We invested in a draught-type excavator that the state sold us, which made it a lot more efficient to do ditching, because before they were using a backhoe, and it was very slow. And with the amount of ditches that need to be maintained, they couldn't keep up. But with this draught, they can go really fast. And I think, what is it, we got Kenworth trucks now, which are very reliable. And that really increases the life of a road, having proper ditching.
Yeah,
So in the long run, our road costs are going to be lower over time. Future.
As payroll goes up.
No, payroll goes down because one man can do a lot more work. Yeah. Sometimes it pays to invest a little here and there in the right place.
Why is the welfare officer highlighted?
The board had asked why there was a different increase for that person
Okay.
doing that position, and I couldn't remember at the time, so I went back and looked, and we actually increased her hours by two hours per
10,
week.
10, 12.
Yeah.
And was that requested by the welfare officer, stating that work wasn't getting done in time?
No, it's because we're seeing how many hours right now, the amount that welfare is taking of her time.
Oh, okay.
And we know-
Oh, so it's a part, like it's a,
It's a part-time job.
Yeah.
Yep.
assuming I know the answer to this, but sanitation's an extra 100,000? Or from 2022 to 2023, it was 481, then it jumped to 582, so 100,000 jump, and now just a smaller jump. Is that just due to the cost of disposal?
I can look at that.
Believe, and Ann, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a couple things going on there. One, there was a period of time we were struggling to have employees, staff, which reduces costs because we just didn't have the staff.
Right.
And then in the past year, we've had a staff member deployed.
Correct.
And that's staff members coming back, or has come back.
So it's primarily staffing wise.
It is.
Okay.
Of course,
And
there is some hauling increases as well, but most of that is staff.
Yep. And are we still having trouble getting rid of the recycling? Or is that an ongoing issue?
It is an ongoing issue. The only issue that we have right now actually is glass. We have a pile of glass at the facility that we need to take care of, that's been building for years. But the state has been very good. They're working with us to try to determine where we can dispose of that.
There had been discussion many years ago about us getting a glass crusher, but
Right.
that was one that we took out of the budget repeatedly.
We
Correct.
don't really need this, do we?
They used to do it at the school.
So is there conversation, cause I have a sticker, but like a way to help offset the increase by people that utilize the dump on the income side? If you're always trying to lower the budget, it's either lower expenses, raise or raise income, but not to people who might not utilize the dump.
The recycling,
I'm sorry,
Current-
yes, the recycling center. He doesn't like it.
yeah, we don't like that word. The recycling manager has, in the past, come in and spoken to our new town manager, indicating that they will have to look at all the expenses, all the revenue that they come in, what they collect revenue for. That just has not been on the immediate radar right now,
Right.
but within the next year, I presume that that will be something that they do.
We did
And it will be-
revise fees and policies around mattresses last year.
Yeah, we did.
We did, but that was the only one.
That was the only one.
Most of ours now are, the only people that charge are commercial haulers. So that's something that they're looking at. So yes, in answer to your question, yes, they have recently.
This
looked
shows
at it.
my ignorance because I don't use our town recycling center.
But it does require a public hearing of the board, so it takes some time to put everything together.
Right, but do you pay once and that's like, you have access forever for that vehicle, or do you have to pay annually?
Pay for
How do you
what?
guys get your stickers?
Your
The
sticker.
stickers they don't charge for.
Charge for
You
stickers.
show
Charge
that
stickers.
you're a resident of the town of Plymouth,
You just get a sticker.
I gotcha.
In other
So-
towns, I do
for
know that they
residential.
charge.
I got
For
you.
residential.
For residential.
For residential, yeah.
That's how it is, okay. See, it shows my ignorance, I don't use it. I have a
all
dumpster
right.
at camp, and I'm just like, it's on my way. I think that might be all the questions from what I saw, just kind of flipping through here, but I'm sure there'll be more. Is there a way to see income side of this, or no?
I can send you our projected income if you'd like.
That would be great.
Do you have?
Yeah, I can get you an email.
Okay, that would be great.
I actually think as we started to talk about planning for the hearing, having a handout about income.
I will do that.
might be Helpful for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I was thinking about this. The schools I think do a really nice job with their handouts at their budget hearings. Nobody shows up to them, so that part's sad. But they do a very good job with their handouts.
Well, a lot of it is taken care of, quite frankly, day to day. Lots of people travel in and out of the superintendent's office. So historically, we've met with people and answered their questions, no matter what the 8 or 9 districts that, so. But it's very well laid out and on the website, so that once that technology became available, it really decreased the amount of time the meetings took, because the information was so out there.
Yep.
One thing the schools do, that historically is that they'll take the gross appropriation, subtract the projected revenue, and then do a projected tax rate based on the existing net assessed valuation. And then there was always the comment that I would make at meetings, the revenues are a projection, and this bottom line will probably increase. And so your numbers should be lower. I was never wrong with that. It was always lower than the projected.
They didn't
one.
hold you to your absolute.
No, not when they won.
That's right.
It was a whole nother story.
Right.
But it's clear, and then, as you do on the warrant articles, you can break it out to how much a warrant article
Yep.
costs, which is pretty simple. So that's the big, people want to know how much they're voting on. That's really the bottom line. If you present all of that, there's no
Right.
carrying on. It's just, it is what it is, what it is. And if you want it, if people want to cut, they should identify the service they don't want anymore, not just take 200,000 off the top. It's not fair to anybody.
Right.
So, just, if you don't think we should be running a department, tell us. We'll have a vote on it. And we'll figure out what we're
Give them
gonna
the
do.
worst-case scenario, and then when they get the real deal, they feel pretty good.
That's right.
Well, just to speak to that, I mean, last year when I was looking through, and I'm sure you guys all saw me come up multiple times, it was very difficult to look at warrant articles and try to figure it out. But like looking at this, the way this is laid out, from a CFO standpoint, this is what I want to see. Okay, what's historical? What was last year? What are we projecting this year? And I can see it all in one fell swoop. But like a warrant articles, like last year, things were split out differently compared to the prior year.
And
I
they
think
will
it's
be
just-
again,
it's too
unfortunately.
complicated for people in
Yeah.
a meeting in that setting to be able to dig through, which is why Mark said, "Hey, you have a lot of questions. You should come to." Like,
Come to the budget hearings.
he wanted me to be on the committee possibly, and I'm like, I don't have time for that because I coach and summer is crazy, and I just have another baby, and life is just nuts.
Might want to get out of the house.
That's right.
My wife was just calling me, so I think she wants me back. She's probably watching.
That's right.
But no, but this is super helpful for people to be able to understand, okay, this is what this department is and that department is, and it's, I think, somewhat almost, and it's not meant to be hidden in the warrant articles, but it seems kind of like it's hard to understand within the warrant articles how it's worded.
Warrant articles, we have a specific way
Oh,
that
I
we
know.
have to present
I
them,
know.
so.
And I'm not blaming that on you, but I'm saying this layout to me, because I've had people say like, why is the town spending out of control? I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to a meeting to find out.
Right.
But I can say, hey, I've got things and they're looking like they're trimming wherever they can. So,
And we do provide copies of the budget at
Town
all
meeting.
the public hearings, all the, yeah, so
And we publish this on the website too.
we do.
So
Yep.
this, the whole,
not this one, but the one that
No,
we're
no,
gonna
no.
do with the,
this one's on the website right now. Yeah.
Because you had said.
It
moving
will,
forward-
this one is not
not?
on the website yet.
Oh, okay.
Until we,
So it will be
Until
after.
it's
it will
today.
be after, yeah.
But you're gonna do.
But
it-
last year we did, before town meeting, we had that exact document on the
full-
website.
Right, but it sounds like you're gonna do another column that is select board, select board 23-24, or 24-25.
You will not see at the public hearing that we're going into, you will not,
EFGH.
right, you will not see E, F, G, or H.
And you're
You-
gonna have a new column that has select board 24-25.
Correct. Yep, and that's what we hand out at all the public hearings and at town meeting we did.
So which one's gonna win out? Because there's 40-something more thousand in department head to town manager, so is town manager gonna win?
So far, the town manager is,
Yeah, so the process kind of looks like the department heads come with their requests, those go in, then the town manager works with them to try to get those numbers down. Budget committee works with them, tries to get those numbers, aligned. And then the select board comes in and says, yeah, you've done good work here, and we sort of adopt those recommendations.
I think our future really depends on our planning, how we plan this town. Our planning department, our planning board, our zoning board, Conservation Commission, Energy Commission, all working together.
so Zach, last year, at the public hearing, you actually had are you doing that again this year?
I will do that again this year.
Perfect.
Yes, I'll try to get you a draft of that in
Handouts.
advance.
He did a presentation last year that really, I think, was helpful.
It's great.
Yeah, just step through it and summarized it.
Yep.
Yep, that's what we're looking for.
So that all the in theory, every question you just asked, Jonathan, should be pre-answered in that handout of, we did this for this, here are the big changes we made that you're gonna recognize in here.
So the 1.8 bond expenditures was in the select board recommendation of 23, 24 in column D.
Correct.
I would be able to find those. Oh, I guess I.
Oh, the 1.8 million,
Yeah.
that was all South Main Street.
Okay.
That was just one bond.
Oh, okay.
Effectively, column D is the budget that was approved by the town last year.
Or the current year that we're in, yep.
Where I'm still on that on the box on page 17. Why we're adding in the remove bond actual decrease.
Because the bond it was an approved expenditure. that we-
Significant increases and the reassessment, those two things hit us
Lined up.
pretty hard this year.
And do we know if the reassessments on the houses were done with the current market?
This
Yes.
current market, yes,
As of April 1st.
yes,
Which is why everyone's.
It's the height of the market.
yeah.
The height of the market. that's
Exactly.
right. We are looking at-
Residential went up 50 to 65%.
How many years do we do appraisals?
We're looking at changing that to every year or every other year. Right now, DRA requires it at every 5
So
years.
were we at every 5 years?
We are right now.
Pres-
Okay, but we have to pay for an appraisal, so there's an expense to that.
Correct.
So you're saying, people having a high amount, but if the market tanks in 2026, they have to wait.
Yes.
Unless
to
they
wait.
file
3
for an
more years,
abatement, that's
yeah.
correct. But potentially, we are looking at doing a statistical update on all the properties in 2 years, instead of waiting till 5 years.
And is that the same of full cost that an appraisal would cost, or a statistical update just saying?
It's the same cost.
Okay, so it's not.
It is, but it brings your value where it should be in a quicker time frame.
Get less of a shock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in this case, we had a lot of costs shift, because residential went up a lot.
Yeah.
Commercial didn't see that same increase, which shifted some of the tax burden here from commercial to residential. All right, thank you, I appreciate your engagement.
If you have any more questions that we can try to answer to help you understand what we're doing, or to sell it one way or the other to the public that are gonna be here, please, give me a call, give Scott a call.
Yep.
You can call Mark, you can call any of the board members. They understand this budget, I think, for the most part. And Mike, you got Sue. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone's willing to try to answer the questions. They may not have
No, I
it
get
right
that.
then, but they will have it.
All right, so I'll take it back to the board. Looks like we lost Mary Ann, but she can't vote anyway. Do we want to approve this to move forward to the hearing?
You need a motion for that?
I don't need a motion. I can, you're really not
Head
voting on
nods.
anything. It's just a
Okay.
consensus. We're moving
Okay,
forward.
let's move forward.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So we will work on some handouts. We'll work on putting the warrant together. So far, I haven't seen any petition warrant articles. I've heard that potentially there might be a few out there, but I don't know.
Rumor has it.
Rumor.
Rumor has it.
They may not be specific to financial as far as the budget, but they may be something to do with elderly exemptions or veteran exemptions, some adjustments that people are looking at there, so.
Okay.
All right.
I don't have anything else until 5 unless you do.
If not, happy to adjourn. Thank you, Budget Committee.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Capital Improvement.
It was fun.
Jonathan, thank you.